Peace that surpasses all understanding. And I say that to myself as well. Been been quiet for a couple of days, and not just a couple of days, but something happened last summer with my sister of mine. I had four sisters. Two of them have passed away. One of my sisters passed away in December, but I recall going to her house um, this past summer for a family gathering, a picnic, something of that nature. And I recall, I've had a history of working in healthcare, and not just healthcare, but specific, wide varieties of healthcare. But I've worked in end of life hospice. And when I saw my sister this past summer, last summer, like a year ago, um, she had a number of health problems. But when I saw her, and I think you'd be hard pressed to talk to somebody who's in the, within the medical field, um, who hasn't experienced this on some level, where you see, I sensed and I felt her impending passing. Let's just put it that way. There was a look about her that I could see the ravages of time, and her health conditions had really taken a toll. And there was an element of um, this is difficult, you guys, because um, I titled this video journaling, and more often than not, journaling is for self-reflection. But having been a counselor, I also know the benefit of sharing in a group setting where maybe people can pick. Ultimately, this is for me, but if somebody can glean something for themselves and it aids them in some way, all the better, all the better. But that experience that I had with my sister last summer, and then fast forward to December, this past December, and she did in fact pass away. Um, and there's a powerlessness that we feel, that there was a powerlessness that I felt, and knowing the dynamic of that relationship, from childhood to her passing, the relationship that she and I shared, it wasn't all great. It really wasn't. It wasn't a good relationship. All in all, it wasn't. And considering whether or not, shall we say, I made my peace with her, or she in turn made her peace with me. Um, and after that interaction last summer, I could tell that she, there was a lot of mutual traumatic events that we experienced as, in our younger years, and it was heartbreaking to see her at the end of her life. Um, Still having not really any general awareness, and it was a red flag to me, because here I am, I'm 10 years younger than her, almost to the day, within a few weeks of each other. We were almost 10 years apart, and I don't want I have no desire to pass in such a way where so much of my own distortion hasn't been addressed. If that makes any sense, it makes sense to me. But in recent days, um, I had an experience, and what it's shown me, it's interesting because we all have these ideas of meditation and what meditation. You have the idea of meditation sitting on a floor and with your legs crossed, and personally, I find a great deal of meditation in certain types of work, um, perhaps painting, and I've been doing a fair amount of that lately, and I don't know if I find it cathartic, I find it cathartic painting, um, you know, and within, like, I don't know, it's been a culmination point since last December. A lot of stuff has been happening, but there was an event 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, somewhere around there, and I felt myself progressing or digressing, as the case may be, unveiling certain aspects of lifelong fucked up patterns in my life. Like, wow. You know, I've mentioned it I've given a pretty full and descriptive definition. I've done several videos, simultaneous videos about my life, kind of from a video journaling kind of standpoint. But my childhood was fucked up. It was fucked up. It was not a safe or healthy or conducive environment for thriving. It was fucked up. It was a messed up household, and you know, as a 55-year-old man, I'm sitting here and I'm still working this shit out. It's like it's gruesome. It's fucking brutal. And the determination I came to in that meditative state over the past several days, um, you know, in all truth, my mother, for example, not for example, my mother, and it's not a matter of my opinion. This is a family collective agreement. Like, yeah, mom was sick. Mom had some. It was emotional. It was physical. It was spiritual. My mom was sick. Uh, and her actions and behaviors and the way she treated others was not. Um, in today's society, I'm not sure any of us would have been living in that household. We would have been pulled out. And fortunately, while I experienced my mother's illness firsthand, I was very fortunate to have my grandparents step in, specifically my grandmother, and she pulled me out of the house, and I went and I lived with them for several years. Not as long as I would have liked, but she was elderly at the time, and she passed away. But the point I'm getting at is that as a child, um, my mother, as children, our parents, for lack of a better word, are God to us. And we're basing, through those formative years, the earlier, and ages 1 to 3, 3 to 5, you're developing certain parts of your character, your personality, your viewpoint of the world, and um, it, and this, it's fucking sad, man. It's sad. It's genuinely sad for all parties involved, and that we base so much of who we are and who we become on these pivotal events, and sometimes they're good. Sometimes we have good structure and loving support through our earlier years, and it builds us up, and it forms um, it forms within us a sense of confidence and security, and that we are safe, and that we have people that got our back. And then there's other times where we're swimming in treacherous waters all by ourselves, and we're in fucking flight or fight mode. And that was my case. And I'm looking over the course of my life, even the job choices that I made, um, were a reflection of my childhood. And like for instance, food, having food when I was a child was an issue. Food was a reward or a punishment, for example. So what did I do? I went to cooking school. um, as a child, I witnessed and observed and my mother's health problems. So I added into my very eclectic work career life healthcare. I got into healthcare. I got into counseling. My mother was mentally ill, and I got into counseling. I was a non licensed clinical social worker. And then in later years, and I remember where this trauma, I remember where I got, because there was always like this rift between my mom and my dad. My dad was very handy, but there was always like a rift where my mother and father would have arguments about the state of the house. And my father's name was Frank. Frank, why don't you fix that? Frank, why don't you make the house and one might perceive that, and I don't like using labels, but the perceptively the nagging wife, and I got into construction. Now, and what is the fucking lesson here? What is the lesson? I'm looking at all these career choices, and not only career choices but relationship choices. Um, and in my more intimate, personal female relationships where I fell in love or I got married, I was married twice. Um, in those particular relationships, I my choice, and it is a choice. It was my choice. It was based on subconscious feelings of childhood, experiences and feelings that I had during childhood. And my spouses, both of them, with all respect to them, I'm not. There was a great deal of influence from childhood in engaging with those two females in particular, um, being a metaphor for my mother, plain and simple. Um, but the thing that really, like, over the past, I mean, I take a breath, Scott. When I consider the life path that I've been on, some of the things I have chosen and some of the things I manifested. And again, I manifested, I subconsciously created. And to see the connection between my childhood and my adulthood and all the situations that I found myself in, it's uncanny. Like, I look back over it, plain and simple, I could not I could not save my mother. I couldn't save her from her own disease. And in a childlike way, my choices through my life have been repetitions of trying to save my mother from herself. You know, um, and I was a little kid. You can't, I mean, it's impossible. I was a little kid. There was no way that I was going to save her or protect myself or protect my father from her. Um, there was nothing I could do, and as a grown man, I can see where that pattern. I manifested that pattern into my life, and it's interesting because I was speaking to somebody about a particular incident that I had on a cruise ship. I went on a cruise in 2019, and there was a woman. There was a woman who attempted suicide, and I like over the course of my life, there's an idea of people who see a fire and they run away, and then there's people who see a fire and they run toward it. And in this particular incident, I can see where I've done that, where I've done that, and like these super like traumatic events during people's lives, and like running toward them, not running away. And these are all patterns from my childhood, trying to thinking somehow in my subconscious in a very distorted way, thinking that by helping people I could save my mother or protect my father. um, and that's a lot of weight to put on ourselves. I'm weary of it. And frankly, I'm like, I'm embarrassed. I feel embarrassed. I feel ashamed of myself for not realizing, understanding, and appreciating this to this level sooner. Because the thing that there's an aspect. No, I'll use another story. There was, when I was still working in healthcare, there was a friend of mine. Her name was Meg. Wonderful woman, very kind. And I was divorcing. I was in the process of divorce with my first wife, and she was just simply kind to me. I was getting sober at the time. I was going through a divorce. She was being kind. And this particular event, we used to pull some very long shifts in the emergency room. Usually 12 hours, but sometimes it 12 hours could feel like 16 or 18 or 24. And I was bringing things in for us during our long shifts, myself and the other staff that were working the emergency room. And I remember her pulling me aside, and she asked me, why are you doing this? And I said, and in my conscious mind, whatever I was, I'm like, well, these are long shifts for all of us. And it was during the summer, and we live in a tourist area, and it gets crazy. But her point was, it was one of those moments, and I don't remember if there was like, if she actually put her hand on my shoulder, but it sure felt like that. In recollection, she, like basically like, Scott, you're overcompensating, you know, and I mean, I think it's sweet what you're doing, but you're overcompensating. And I was looking at her like I had no fucking clue what she was talking about. I had zero self awareness at that point. But helping others, having that feeling or sense of helping others would somehow save my mother or protect my father. and feeling like this weak little kid who's grasping at straws to fix and heal, you know, you know, to fix and heal something within myself that was less than, that felt insignificant, obsolete, unwanted, like orphan childhood, just fucking ick stuff. And it's not fair to the people that it's not fair from my perspective. It does, and finding balance between the deeds that I did in during these periods of my life, and very, even within the past several years, where I want to help. I do. There is something genuine and pure and wonderful about wanting to share with people, wanting to help people in need. But there's times where, why am I doing it? What is my motive? What is my intention for to save my mother and protect my father? Crushing realities. Crushing realities. Like, wow, dude, you're 55 years old and you're still dealing with this shit. And lifelong, man, lifelong lessons. Um, but I think it had a lot to do, like coming to like this, like, and it was I had a paintbrush in my hand, the day before yesterday, and I was like deep in meditation. There again, there's just something very cathartic about painting. Had a paintbrush in my hand, and I'm doing the whatever, and that moment of clarity, like just and not just a moment of clarity, but like an epiphany, like, oh my god, this is what I've been doing, you know while we're grateful for the revealing of that, like, it's like, oh shit, like, I used to drink. I don't drink anymore, but I remember some of those events where, I would come out of a blackout, or I'd wake up hungover and go, oh my god, what the fuck have I been doing? What did I do last night? And in some respect, like, this epiphany moment of clarity about, like, this fucking pattern that that's been subconsciously coming out, and I've prettied it up and doctored it up to seem more agreeable to me, um, was nothing more than me trying to save my mother. It's like, fucking hell, man. Save my mother and protect my father. It's like, dude, you're a little kid. Cut yourself some slack. I don't know how to proceed with this. I know that I have had such wonderful, amazing experiences over the course of my life. You know, even within that distortion or that subconscious acting out, I have had some truly incredible experiences with people where I was able to show up for somebody on some level. I was able to share with somebody on some level. I was able to offer something of myself, my time, my whatever. And you can't, I don't know, maybe it's the backside of it, but I have whatever. I have this wall in my house where people have sent me letters and notes, and for experiences that we shared. you know Even though my even though some of these experiences were fueled by by that distortion, even though they were fueled sometimes by that distortion, does it take away the value of the experience? Because there's some nice stuff. I'm looking at these cards. Yeah, fuck it. It's the backside. It's not gonna. It's there's this little thing, and these cards that you see, um, that I've got put up there. They're like, these are times where people, I was able to share myself with somebody, and it meant a lot to them, even though my process was kind of fucked up. It meant a lot to them. Do you throw the baby out with the bathwater? What can I, you know, what is it? Take the good parts and leave the junk behind, or there's somebody, um, take what resonates and leave the rest behind, and I think of my experiences, you know, the experiences were still the experiences, and those were still wonderful experiences. But I can definitely see where this pattern, this lifelong pattern, I wow, it's profound stuff, man. It like, and what astounds me about a lot of this is my depth of being like the depth to which I was oblivious. That's the thing. I feel ashamed of that. I feel embarrassed. Like, oh my fucking god. Like I mentioned, that moment where I might have come out of a blackout and like, what the fuck have I done? You know. Um, and how do I make amends for that? How do I make an amends for that? How do I correct that? You know, how do I correct that? Hold on to the good parts and get rid of the distortion. How do you do that? Um, and I've been there was somebody that I used to speak to when I several years ago. There was somebody I used to speak to. I mentioned her in my last video, and I've been trying to set up an appointment with her. Her or someone. She's in Arizona or New Mexico. I'm sorry, but I'm like, there's like, this is really deep stuff, man. This is really deep stuff, and I owe it to myself. It's been rough. It's been rough. In particular, the last 2 weeks, it's been rough, and lots of emotion coming out. But the biggest one, the most common one is that shame and embarrassment. Like, dude, oh man, really? Don't be that guy, man. Don't be that guy. uh, Video journaling. Again, video journaling. This is something I will probably, for my own sake, I do believe there is a huge benefit to vocalizing, even if it's just to a camera or to another person, but verbalizing verbalizing something that we're experiencing. Oftentimes, the answer is within. It's within the expression, and whether it happens as we're speaking, or we realize, in a half hour from now, I suddenly realize, oh my God, the answer lies within. But anyway, work in progress, man. Work in progress. Life lessons constantly revealing themselves to us, going deeper and deeper into deep. That's definitely something too that I've experienced where you begin, like, you might make progress on something and you feel like, oh, I'm making progress on that, and I like the way I'm beginning to feel about a certain thing, a certain distortion within my life, that I've cleared it somehow. And then you go a period of time and whatever, and then all of a sudden, boom, it takes you to a different level of that distortion. So you dealt with this part of it, and it's like gradual. It's just, and you see things deeper and deeper and deeper, and you learn about yourself on a deeper and deeper and deeper level. I suppose I mentioned like making an amends. Like and I come from my back. So I got sober and I was in AA and I practiced 12 steps, and there is validity in some of those steps. I truly believe that, but there is one where making amends. It's not about I'm sorry. You go to somebody and you say I'm sorry. It's about really genuinely owning your shit and fucking doing something about it. You know, it wasn't a trite apology. You actually, there was something involved in it. For example, I remember one employer that I stole from. I had to pay him back. I had to own my shit. Look, hey, I know it's been a couple of years, but I'd like to meet with you. Go to, and I went to their office, and I'm like, when I worked for you, I stole. I stole, and here is, I actually had to own it. It was a deeply humbling experience, but I understand the like the why it's important. It's not just saying you're sorry. There actually has to be um, change. You know, there has to be an alteration in our heart about how we proceed. And sometimes it's confusing, and sometimes and I've experienced that as well when making an amends. Sometimes making an apology or making an amends is going to cause more harm. Even by making the apology, it could cause harm. So you have to be discerning about, it takes a great deal of reflection. Hey, Scott, how are you, man? Some verbal diarrhea, dude. Mommy and daddy stuff. Kind of, how would I just, like video journaling for uh, purging, um, self actualizations, realizing why I behave a certain way. Yeah. How are things in in Philly? I was actually kind of wrapping it up, but how are things in Pennsylvania? Today we're looking at, I think they said it was going to be like 85 degrees in Maine. I got all my windows open right now. I got my air conditioner all set to go. I got to get it in the window. But yeah, I don't know, man. You live and you learn. You live and you learn. And I am grateful for the experiences that I've gotten to have. And I think it's important too. The particular people that have shown up at this particular part of my life for this particular part of my journey, and how they played pivotal roles in helping me, knowingly or unknowingly, whatever, just through our interactions, to get to this point of self realization, self actualization, self awareness. Like, oh shit, this is how I've been behaving. And powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. Yeah, deeply reflective. Anyway, Scott, punks. Yeah, another Groundhog Day. Same shit, different day. Oh man. Uh, what? I'm kind of curious. Like you sent me on the chat there something about the what is it? The full blood moon. I don't. Hold on one second. I can't remember. Hold on one sec, dude. No, that's not the one I wanted. Total blood moon eclipse is happening this weekend. How to watch? Uh, what day is that? Very dark. What day? Anyway, no, I have it right here, dude. Yeah, that right there. Yeah, it was a full moon last night. No clouds at all, and it was almost like freaking daylight. I woke up at 1 o'clock, 1 a.m., and I went outside, and I'm like, oh my god, man, it was so bright. I thought it was the street lights. So Sunday, all right, cool, man. Sunday at 10:30 p.m. and yeah, Eastern time. Far out, dude. I'll set my alarm. Oh god. Oh man. Anyway, I think I'm gonna sign off, dude. Thanks for being here, man. I thought I was gonna skate through, being early, like nobody be up. I could post this and exit before anybody even knew I was here. A harbinger. I'm not. 82 minutes Sunday. 82 minutes. A harbinger. What? What? Somebody else used that word recently, and I didn't know what it meant. A harbinger. A carrier. Um, if you're inclined to share, I'm still here, dude. Harbinger. Definition: a person or thing that announces or signals the approach of another. So the 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 lunar event. Yep, yep, got it. Blue. Yeah, dude. Don't fear the Reaper. I don't like. Is this mess or like it's like heralding in like a new cycle? Hopefully, it's a good cycle. Harbinger of Eyes. Is that a Blue Oyster Cult song that I'm surprisingly unfamiliar with? I went to see them in Springfield. It was Black Sabbath and Blue Oyster Cult at the Springfield Civic Center in Springfield, Massachusetts. I'll check it out then. Harbinger of Eyes, Blue Oyster Cult. Um, but that particular concert, Black Sabbath and Blue Oyster Cult, this would have been what? I was in high school, 16. So mid 80s, early to mid 80s, something like that. And Blue Oyster Cult was awesome. Black Sabbath, they were awful. They were all wasted on stage and they couldn't play for shit. But I got a good secondhand buzz from all the weed smoke in the audience. Godzilla too, yeah, dude. I love that freaking song. I'm gonna play some shit. I love music, dude. I love music. Godzilla, man. Was Don't Fear the Reaper, Godzilla. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. Oh my god, jeez. Trying to think of what else. I know there's more. I know there's more. There was even a from that. It wasn't from that particular concert, but I do remember there was a double album. There was a double album of that tour live, And on one side of the jacket, it was Blue Oyster Cult, and on the other side of the album jacket, it was Black Sabbath. Hopefully, performing on a night where they were a little more sober. I remember Ozzy. I remember Ozzy. He was wasted. He was wasted. And I remember like this day. He fell. He just tripped right over himself. And their set was short too. It was like, normally a band will play for, I don't know, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever, hour and a half. And their set was like only about a half hour long because they couldn't even freaking play. Anyway, I love you, brother. I love you, brother. And I want to sign out. Take it easy, man. Take it easy. Gonna go play up at my sister's house in Kennebunk. Sabbath with Dio. Yeah, Ronnie James, man. Rainbow. Yep. His time with them was pretty short, though, wasn't it? It was only like a year or two. I can't remember. Yeah, Ronnie James Dio. By any chance, do you? I think our ages are pretty close. I'm 55, but do you remember a cartoon movie coming out? I think it was in 1982, 80 or something. Heavy Metal. It was based on the comic book magazine graphic comic whatever. There was a lot of good music in there. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna sign off, brother. Um, Dude, this is like one of the longest. This is one of the longest shares I've ever had. Normally, I get cut off at 30 minutes, but because I'm on my laptop. You loved it? Heavy metal, right? Yeah. Cool, man. Cool. I'm out. Later, dude. Thanks for being here. Love you, man.